Okay, welcome back to Continue Freedom. If this is your first time here, welcome aboard. Thank you all so much for being here. Sorry for my absence. I've been out of town again, but here we go. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. We've got Democrats planning an insurrection. Yes, you heard that right. People are now saying that, on January 20th, they need to have 11 million people showing up in D.C. I wonder if we're going to see, I highly doubt we're going to see the prison sentences that we saw after January 6th. But nonetheless, they're saying that we need to march on Washington, prevent Trump from going into office. And the guy who is spearheading this now on this particular video with 1.5 million views, I think he's elsewhere on the internet, so he's probably amassed tens of millions of views. He's an Air Force guy, former Air Force guy, looks like an officer, I believe. He was a former Air Force vet turned TikToker. Anyway, we'll get into that, and I'm going to give you some of my thoughts of just the veteran environment in general, and how there's a lot more folks out there backing the Democrat Party than one might think. And at least the ones that are very vocal on social media. So we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about congressional salaries going up by 39%, getting a $70,000 pay raise as part of this new continuing resolution that Mike Johnson is just cowering away from and saying, we've just got to get it done. We're going to talk about that, as well as the Senate trying to end the Electoral College. We're going to talk about the drones. We're going to talk about Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, going unwoke. He's basically turning on the Democrat Party, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. But all this is going to be discussed today, and I want to remind everybody, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, that you give this a like. It really helps us with the algorithm. I truly, truly appreciate it. So let's go ahead and start first with the former Air Force guy. Now, this is a 4-minute video. I'm not going to play the whole video, but he is saying that there is power in numbers, essentially, and the 3% rule, as he said, this is a quote from him, the 3% rule states that if you have 3% of a group of people's population, 3% of a particular population, if they gather in mass, they can change everything. And he is saying that 11 million Americans need to storm D.C. on January 20th and demand that Trump be stopped. This is we're all kind of tired of the hypocrisy, and I think that's why Donald Trump won in the first place, because people have realized that the hypocrisy of the Democrat Party it knows no bounds, it knows no limit. And the things that they are railing about one day, they are railing against one day, they are for the next day. The thing they are for this day, or they are railing against if Donald Trump is doing it. There's really no intellectual consistency with these folks. And what have we heard for the past, since January 6th? I mean, for the past, what has it been now? 5 years, 4 years, whatever it is. January 6th, this insurrection. It's worse than the Civil War as a comparison that folks like even Joe Biden has made. They say this is one of the worst attacks on our democracy since Pearl Harbor, since the Civil War. This is a horrible, horrible thing, and yet there are people saying they need to come out in mass, in particular this Air Force officer, former Air Force officer, need to come out in mass to prevent Donald Trump from becoming president, to prevent him from being inaugurated. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a world where that level of hypocrisy was just, that look no further than the world we're living in right now? This isn't the only person that I have seen saying similar stuff. A lot of folks out there are going with the same old line of, this is an illegitimate president, he's not my president, failure to accept the results of the election, which is what we have been fighting. That's the rhetoric that has been opposing Republicans, the conservative movement, the MAGA movement, the America First movement. They have been hitting us with this, this same old rhetoric, and yet now here it is, the Democrat Party coming out and endorsing this sort of thing. So I think we're all over it at this point, but just be aware that there's going to be dicey things happening between now and Inauguration Day. And, we just have to be on the lookout for it. We have to be the cooler heads in this situation, as we have been, by the way. We've been the common sense folks. You all out there that watch this channel, you're part of the common sense movement in America. And we are capable of calling out the lunacy of the woke agenda, of the transgender agenda, of this, the DEI, all these horrible policies and programs and social movements that have been driving our country over the past, 10 years. We are the ones who finally said, look, I've seen enough of this. No more, no more. Give me a Donald Trump presidency, and that's what we've got. But they're going to try whatever they can. That, mark my words, they will try something, whether it's a false flag event, whether it's ginning up some sort of a security threat, another pandemic, something between now and inauguration date to try to upend Donald Trump's presidency. If nothing else, look, these folks, we'll talk about it in a minute, but Congress doesn't really have to worry. They're about to get a $70,000 a year pay raise. By the way, the median income in America is about $80,000, and so their pay raise is equivalent to the median income of the average American in America, of course, American in America, of the average American citizen. And on top of that, they get a lot of perks and benefits. They're going to be insulated from a financial crisis, but they would have zero problem. The Democrats would have zero problem doing whatever they could to try to push us over an economic cliff so that Donald Trump is fighting that instead of fighting against the deep state, fighting against the corruption, working to cut spending, shrinking the federal government. They're going to do whatever they can to hold on to their power and authority, and we have to be patient. Donald Trump says he's going to do certain things in 30 days. It might not be possible. It might take him 90 days. It might take him 6 months, but he's got 4 years. He's not going to fix it all, but he can fix a lot of it in 4 years. And we just have to be patient because he's pushing against a monstrous, monstrous system. And that's the next thing, by the way, that we are going to talk about. Let's talk about congressional salaries going up by 39%. And this is a 1,500-page continuing resolution. And congressional salaries will increase from $174,000 a year to $243,000 a year. Now, some very well-known politicians had some interesting things to say about this, namely Dick Durbin. If you don't know who Senator Dick Durbin is, he is a, he's one of the kind of mindless, I would consider him one of the mindless senators in D.C., and he was approached by a CNN anchor, and listen to his response when the CNN anchor told him, hey, you're getting a pay raise. Check this out. Oh, that's not playing in the right place. Let me, I don't have my pause button up. Let me pause let me just pull it up. My audio is going to the wrong spot here. But Senator Durbin, that look on his face says it all, actually. When he was told, hey, you're getting a pay raise, he kind of, what? Wait a second. What are you talking about? Here, now I can play it. Let me try this.
Raise?
Well, that's news to me.
Members are giving themselves a pay raise. Do you guys deserve a pay raise?
Well, that's news to me. It's good news. What has it been, 10 years or 14 years and no COLA, no change at all? I think it's about time something's done.
You support giving yourselves a pay raise.
How would I not know about a pay raise?
But I mean, people look at the performance of Congress and say, why should we give them more money?
What about the media? Think about that.
Oh, there's a very interesting bait and switch. Now, he's not wrong about the media, which the point we'll get to in a minute. But this is a guy who's going to be voting on this in the Senate. So once this gets through the House and it gets to the Senate, he's going to have to cast a vote. He doesn't know that he's getting a pay raise. He doesn't even know. These people are getting this. Our representatives get this. These 1,500-page bills 24 hours before they're supposed to vote on them, or 48 hours before they're supposed to vote on them. You can't get through 1,500 pages. In fact, I went through one of the very first. I never paid attention to this. I was probably like a lot of you folks out there. I was living my life. I wasn't really paying attention to what the federal government was doing. But in the first, what got me triggered, if you want to use a popular term of the day, what got me triggered was the first spending bill going into COVID. That's when I made my first video. And my first video was talking about the pork in that bill because it was massive. It was the first example I had seen of a major catastrophic event catapulting government spending in a way that we had never seen before. And here we are, years and years and years later, and we're doing the exact same thing. And it keeps getting worse, and it keeps getting worse. And this is a short-term spending bill, but nonetheless, this is something that if the government has to shut down, the government has to shut down. But we've got to start now getting rid of the pork. The mandate from the American people, because of the results of the election, says that this needs to happen. And Congress is saying, well, it's all based on Inauguration Day, on Trump getting in office. So we've got to pump as much as we possibly can into the system, into our donors, into our special interest groups before Trump is elected. So we don't really care about the mandate of the people, the red wave that ran roughshod, over over the establishment with the election of Donald Trump and the winning of the House and the Senate. No. We don't need to worry about that. Just people aren't thinking about it until Inauguration Day. It's the Christmas holiday too, by the way. Everybody's focused on eggnog and Christmas carols and putting up their Christmas tree and the stress of the holiday season. Let's shove this through. We can get, billions and billions and billions of dollars pushed into our special interest groups. And Dick Durbin is absolutely shocked that he's getting a pay raise, but he says it's about time. Now, I know DC is an expensive place, but you are a public servant. That you may hobnob with the rich and famous in DC, but that doesn't mean that you deserve to have the same type of money. And, going to 200 and what did I say the number was? $230,000 a year, I believe is what it was. Let me pull that one back up again. Yeah, $240,000 a year. So going from 174, which is double the median income, to $243,000, which is three times the median income. Just because you are in DC, you can sleep in your office. Put a cot in there. You don't need to have the fancy apartment. You don't need to have all the money. He says, we need COLA, cost of living allowance. So that's money on top of their salary. They don't need it, but they want it because they plan on staying there for a very, very long time.
And we're not paid by public money.
I know you're not, but I mean, half of your listeners are not there anymore. You're still getting the same paycheck? What's going on?
That's a valid point. He said, what about the media? You all are still getting the same paycheck. You're getting half the viewership and the same money. I don't disagree with that. If you're not pulling in the viewers, if you're CNN and you are doing nothing but spouting, hateful rhetoric about Republicans and conservatives and MAGA folks and Donald Trump and spreading actual conspiracy theories about people like Matt Gaetz and Pete Hegseth, and that drives your viewership away, then yeah, you should have a pay cut. 50% cut in viewership means a 50% cut in your pay. You shouldn't get the same money for doing a worse job. So he makes a valid point, but that is sidestepping. The reporter made the right argument. This is public money. This is our money. And I look through at everything historically. We have to look back, right? We have to look at our history to understand where we need to move and what pointers we can pull from bad economic policy in the past. And I look back 100 years. 100 years is a good marker for us because we were also in a time of prosperity. We were post World War I, and I look at that time. One of the things that triggered our prosperity was cuts to government spending, was the lifting of regulation. And we've gone the opposite direction from that ever since the Calvin Coolidge days. And we've moved into areas of government control and spending that we have never seen before. So yeah, I get it. Look, it's time. It's a time of cuts. Donald Trump isn't taking a salary. Maybe these guys ought to get a job on a side hustle or something like that. But it's not just, I'm kidding about that. But $174,000 is ample. You can live on $174,000 a year, even in Washington, D.C. A lot of people live in D.C. who don't have that type of money. Now, a provision that they've also added to this bill, to this CR, would allow for Congress to block subpoenas for House data, including emails, which could block an investigation into the January 6th committee. So they're putting in corruption protections. Donald Trump is the first president in a long time to say, I'm actively going to go after this corruption in the system. And Congress is obviously, rightfully terrified, or they should be terrified, that something is going to be dug up about them. So they're writing it into law that, they can block subpoenas, and this will prevent any type of investigation into them for the DOJ. Really, really crazy stuff. Mike Johnson, who is spearheading this whole mess, he has now come out with a 30% approval rating. He is losing favor rapidly. I was one of the guys who supported, by the way, getting rid of McCarthy and going with Johnson. I thought that I had completely different vision for what Johnson was going to do. McCarthy he's a true rhino, I believe. He got some stuff done, but we needed drastic change. He was doing the same thing now that Johnson is doing now, which is completely just stepping aside and letting the CR roll right past him into the House so that it can get voted on. They're doing what Thomas Massey talks about at Christmas time. This is kind of their MO. They say, and Thomas Massey has said this, by the way, this is where I got this from, is Thomas Massey says, look, they pull out these CRs and they tell these representatives, vote on this and you can go home and see your family. If you don't, we stay here through Christmas. Your family will have to come to D.C. if they want to spend any time with you, and we're going to sit here and pound out this continuing resolution. But as Massey says, they smell the jet fumes at Reagan International Airport, and they decide to just vote on it, kick the can down the road, and they do this every single year. And in fact, they were calling Thomas Massey, this is Mike Johnson, but they were calling Thomas Massey, he said that his nickname is Nostradamus because of his ability to predict how all of these CRs are going to come down every year at Christmas. And Mike Johnson look, this guy is losing favor. It's time for another change. And people are probably going to get frustrated with that, but we have no time to lose. 4 years. 4 years is a very, very short period of time when it comes to correcting the budget and upending corruption. There's going to be a million things going on at once. And we got to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. And if you've got a Mike Johnson who just sits here and says, hey, this has just got to happen, maybe next time we'll get this done. And this is how he says it. Listen to this. This is him talking to Newsmax. But check it out.
Conservative play call. We don't normally like what's called a continuing resolution, a CR. But in this case, it makes sense because if we push it into the first quarter of next year, then we have a Republican-controlled Congress and President Donald J. Trump back in the White House will be able to have more say over the funding decisions for 2025. Now, that would have been an easier thing to do, but then we had circumstances outside of our control. We had these emergencies that are required. So we had, as you know, a record hurricane season. We had Helene and Milton, and they just did massive destruction across our red states, frankly, in the southeast and the eastern side of the country. And then we've had farmers who are in jeopardy of permanently going under. They've had 3 lost years in a row because of Bidenomics and inflation and other circumstances outside of their...
Okay, I'm going to hit a point on this real quick. This is deflection. This is basically hanging this CR around the necks of the people in Western North Carolina who should have already gotten money, who should have already been getting relief, and many of them who are not. And what did I report on, or what did I talk about months ago when Helene hit? I talked about the federal government and FEMA handing the money over to help with the illegal immigration crisis. Therefore, they were running out of money to go into Western North Carolina. As a result, we still have people in Western North Carolina who have not been getting aid. They have a budget for this. Got it. It's extra bad. But you didn't have to pump the billions and billions of dollars into illegal immigration if that problem had been fixed. So I say all that to say, they are taking these natural disasters, they are taking the headline items, using them to justify another continuing resolution that is chocked full of pork. And who pays for it? We're paying for it.
Control. And so,
and I will also say that go back last year, the year before, the year before, the year before. The line is still the same. The argument, the debate is still the same. He's saying, we've got all these other things that we just have to get it through. And then when we hit next quarter, then when we hit the start of the year, then when we get the president in office, we can fix these things. I would ask you, as someone who's lived in this world for at least the past 20 years, has anything changed? We can all definitively say, no, nothing has changed. Which is why we have to draw a line in the sand at some point. We've got brave folks. I'm thankful for those folks. If we had Matt Gaetz in, he would still be doing it. But the Thomas Masseys, the Nancy Maces, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the people that are they know what their constituents want, and they aren't going to violate the faith and trust of their constituents. And so I'm thankful for those folks, but we need more of them. We need more backbone. As Senator Kennedy says, if you don't know haven't seen Senator John Kennedy, I've played him several times on this channel. But Senator John Kennedy says you need to go on Amazon and buy a backbone, is what he tells people. And Mike Johnson has lost his backbone, and his approval ratings are showing it. They're absolutely showing it. So here we go. We're fighting another one. It's going to go through. I can almost guarantee you that this spending bill is going to get passed. It will take us into next year, and we're going to have to be chirping. We're going to have to be calling our representatives. We're going to have to be writing them, hitting them up on social media, whatever we have to do to make sure that we don't have that. This doesn't become the norm. It doesn't stay the norm, because right now it most definitely is the norm. Now, another thing that is this is really wild. A constitutional amendment, and this is from the Epoch Times. Is it Epoch or Epoch? Y'all can write it out phonetically down in the comment section if you want to. I always say the Epoch Times, but so Senate Democrats propose constitutional amendment to abolish Electoral College. Republican Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and Trump have defended the Electoral College as empowering smaller states. Yes, they absolutely do. This gives the Electoral College is indispensable. It's something that we absolutely cannot get rid of, because if we do, we will be run by D.C., New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, all these major cities. That will become the essentially popular vote, mob rule. This is why we have an Electoral College, because mob rule, actual 100% democratic voting, means that the majority can take away the rights of the minority, and that's not the way this is supposed to work. So Senate Democrats proposed a constitutional amendment on December 16th, so it was just 2 days ago, that would abolish the Electoral College and ensure the country's presidential elections were determined by the popular vote. It is time to retire this 18th century invention that disenfranchises millions of Americans, Dick Durbin said in a press release. Same guy we were just talking about, who's making now will be making $243,000 a year. He's insulated. Again, he's in D.C. He and Senators Brian Schatz from Hawaii and Peter Welch from Vermont proposed the legislation after another proposal emerged in the House last week. No one's vote should count for more based on where they live, Schatz said in the press release. The Electoral College is outdated and it's undemocratic. It's time to end it. Well, this is the terminology gap that they have intentionally created, and that is to say, democracy and republic. These are not interchangeable terms. We are a constitutional representative republic, and we have this thing called the Electoral College that, yeah, it means that somebody in Wyoming's vote counts more than somebody's in Los Angeles. But when you account based on the districts and you count based on the population and you move things around, that's not actually the case. It's to protect states' rights and a state's representation and the citizens of that state. To lump us all together into one place that thinks la-di-da-di everybody votes the exact same way and on the exact same principles, and that it's just mob rule, that's not how this works. We are a collection of states in a country. We cannot blur those. Getting rid of the Electoral College is one way, one of the steps in removing the importance of the state. This is another quote. In all but 5 presidential elections, the winner of the election received the most votes, the press release read. 2 of those 5 times came in the last 25 years, handing the presidency to candidates the majority of voters rejected. The release was referring to former President George W. Bush and candidate Donald Trump losing the popular vote in 2000 and 2016 respectively. In the most recent presidential election, Trump won 49.9% of the vote, compared with Vice President Kamala Harris's 48.4% of the vote. So the math works out sometimes, but you're talking about a small 1% change, but it was a landslide victory for Donald Trump. This is how it evens out. This is where the math works out, and it would be absolute chaos, because people have tried it. By the way, other nations have tried pure democratic rule, and it's always mob rule, the majority taking away the rights of the minority, even if that minority is 49.9%. So they've been talking about it for a really long time. Do I think they'll actually do it? No, I think it's fairly ironclad, but they're not going to stop trying. They will not stop trying, mark my words. Now, let's go. I've seen so many reports about these drones, and this is from Benny Johnson. Benny Johnson has got a huge following. I don't say that he's right all the time, but he's posting something from the New York Post, and the New York Post doesn't get it right all the time. But spy drones from China are likely a cause of unexplained aircraft wreaking havoc over the U.S., House Foreign Affairs chair says in a bombshell claim. Okay, I have heard China, I have heard Iran, I have heard, alien. Well, they're not alien because we can hear them running. If they have the capability to transport themselves through space and time over, hundreds of light years to get here, then we're not going to be hearing that thing humming around like it's got some sort of either a combustion engine or an electric engine. It has to be closed. Donald Trump believes, he came out and said recently that, hey, look, he got a classified briefing apparently. He could not divulge what he learned in that classified briefing. Rightfully so. He can't because he's not the president yet. So he can't declassify something like that. When he's president, he will be able to. And he's saying that the federal government knows and that they should be telling people rather than trying to keep everything secret. But this has become the norm, and in fact, the Pentagon came out, and this is from them. This was, I think, just a couple of days ago, where they were claiming that it was civilian. These are civilian aircraft. And listen to what this reporter says.
Just why does it have to be a classified briefing if these are just hobbyist drones? They're not military drones. Why is it a classified briefing on the Capitol Hill?
I'd have to refer you to Congress on that. Again, sharing as much information as we can here. I don't have the briefing in front of me, so I can't tell you specifically, what aspects are classified or not. I can assure you, though, that, again, we are sharing as much information as we can based on what we know.
Okay. So they came out and said, though, these are hobbyist drones. We know that's not the case. There's not that many hobbyist drones flying around. We've also been told by several reports that, early indications from a guy who was the CEO of a drone company said, I believe these were sniffing for some sort of radioactive material that had gone missing in New Jersey. There's speculation. And part of me thinks that they're doing this as part of the continuing resolution. Have everybody focused and honed in on what's going on with these drones flying around New Jersey rather than focusing on the spending of, billions and billions of our taxpayer dollars, of our hard-earned dollars. But at the end of the day, we don't know. And when people started coming out and talking about this being alien in nature, I thought, what? I've talked about it with my buddies on Braver Than the Rest. We've discussed this several times that, do I believe that there's some sort of alien technology? Well, alien, other interdimensional, maybe. There could be evil things out there that are masquerading as higher technology. Yeah, sure, that's a possibility. More than likely for this is something from another country. I originally thought that this was federal. I believe this is something from another country. I believe that there is that the federal government knows exactly what it is, and there's a specific reason that they are not shooting those things down. Trump believes that they were very close to, or said they were very close to Bedminster, so he's not going to be going to Trump Bedminster. Could they be targeting him, possibly targeting him? I don't know. Then you have to ask the question, if these are, if these are something international, if they are from Iran or from China, this is part of a Chinese spying thing, why are we not shooting them down? They must have some sort of information that says shooting them down would, create a catastrophic event. And so at the end of the day, we still don't know. I still don't know. I read about this constantly. Everybody has a different theory. But the worrying thing, and the thing that we should really be harping on when we're making our comments on social media, is why is the government, who knows, not telling us? Why the secrecy? Why, if they come out on one hand and say these are civilian aircraft, these are hobbyist drones, why the need for classified briefings to keep everything hidden from the public? We are big boys and big girls. We can handle the information, but we are tired of being lied to. And it's not necessarily going to stop. I mean, even when Trump comes in, there's going to be times where we want to know something and it's not released to us. I've experienced those frustrations in the previous Trump administration. Maybe he's going to be, even more transparent this time. Some things are for national security reasons. I kind of get that. But good gracious. They cause us to just go into a tailspin and speculate. It's frustrating. But there's a lot of theories. If you find the right theory, the one you believe, let me know what you think it is down in the comments. Is it Iran? Is it China? Is it our federal government? Are they sniffing for radioactive material? What do you think it is? If you have any great articles, share those down in the comments as well. And while you're at it, I will remind you again to make sure that you like and you subscribe. Oops, here we go. Yeah, there you go. hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. If you've made it all the way through, you're obviously enjoying this content. So make sure you do it. And, feel free to share it. That's always nice when folks share the content. Well, let's go ahead and talk about Mayor Eric Adams. Oh, yeah. Mayor Eric Adams, the guy who I have lambasted in the past for being just a typical Democrat. However, he is now going anti-woke. He's calling out his own party. He's done this in multiple interviews. And this is in reference to the guy who shot the CEO, the United Healthcare CEO. And these are his comments. He said, American children, quote, are being radicalized to hate America. And he was talking specifically
about the shooter.
Let me pull this video up. I'll play this one for you. Let me pull it up first here. Where'd it go? Well, there it went. Sorry about that.
Ivy League, grew up in an affluent household. His manifesto clearly is showing some signs of hating. Our children are being radicalized. I said this over and over again. Everybody's like, what are you talking about, Eric? Our children are being radicalized to hate the America, to hate the country that put them where they are. This person had all that one wants to have, but he hated everything to the point of shooting someone. And we better deal with the radicalization of our young people. And, people could, they could complain that I'm saying it, but I'm seeing it. I'm seeing our bench is hating the team. And we better start acknowledging and focusing on that. And so,
what a great way to put it. Really, what a great way to put it. Our bench, which means our party, is hating on the entire team, which is America. And the Democrat Party is doing that. This is the indoctrination that they're putting students through, Ivy League schools and public schools. They're being trained to hate America, and Eric Adams is calling them out on it. He's also taken some stances, by the way, against illegal immigration, saying, no, I'm definitely going to work with Donald Trump and Tom Homan. I think he's met with them, and we're going to get rid of these folks that are here illegally. We're going to wipe out get rid. I won't say not wipe out in the terrible sense, but we're going to get rid of all the illegal immigrants that are in New York. He was actually calling out the illegal immigrants months ago, saying this is going to destroy our city being his city, not mine. But these are positive signs when we see people on the left, Democrats, getting pushed to the limit over that edge and say, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it anymore. I can't be a part of something that hates America, that is putting illegal immigrants or non-American citizens ahead of our own citizens. So kudos to him for that. Yeah, he's a vegan, but I'll look over that in this instance. Oh, man. But anyway, it's good signs. It's good signs. Eric Adams, maybe his approval rating will start climbing. But the Democrat Party is and already has started coming after him. This is their MO. As soon as somebody steps out of line, they try to crush him. They're trying to crush Eric Adams. But as long as he's still in office, he's, I don't agree with his policies, but in some respects, he's showing a modicum of common sense, and that can only benefit the people of New York. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. Be sure to like, subscribe, as I've said before. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, give this a like, and, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you all so much. God bless you. God bless America.